Hello, it's Don. This is How to Play Inquisitor number 5. Combat Shooting Part 1. I'll get into another part. I wanted to divide it up because we got to go over all the weapon profile information. That will go back to some of the arc of facing, and there's some modifiers and how ranges work, because that gets confusing for people that have never seen the chart. And before I get to fully automatic shooting, which becomes a little bit of spreading the fire, rolling hits, dividing all the modifiers up between those hits, it just becomes a big mess if I just try to cram it all in. I want to keep this video kind of, most of the videos I've been trying to keep around the 15-minute mark or so. I go a little bit over, a little bit less sometimes, but I don't want it to become so long. Yeah, and so we'll do that, and it's a part 2 for shooting, which we'll do area effect weapons, grenades, fully automatic, once we've gone through this bit. After that, we'll get into close combat, which might be a two-parter or a longer than 15-minute discussion. After that, we get into awareness and how different skills work and things like that. So it's really not that bad. We're really getting through pretty good. So let's go ahead and get into this bit and get going. And I'll bring up some chart stuff or just overlay me entirely as far as images. I scan some stuff and just to make it a little easier as we read through. All right, so going through the basic stats on the sheets, we'll get some information here for you. So the first thing I wanted to talk about again was the arc of facing, which is that 45-degree shooting angle that extends in either direction from the center of the shooter. The red bit on the front of him is 4, so that 45-degree from him out into the wilderness or whatever he's shooting, that's where that goes. And so we'll get into, there's different types of the weapons. So depending on the weapon, you have pistols, basic, which would count for all your kind of carbine rifle types. And then you got heavies, which are your assault cannons, multi-melt, las cannon type of stuff. Then you have, that's the type, and then you have the range. And the range will be a letter A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. So that sort of gives you a scale from all these different types of possibilities. And the range, and I'll pop that up here, the shooting range modifiers, is 0 to 5, 5 to 10, going by those chunks all the way out to 70 plus inches, which the normal table would be a 4x6. So, and then you have modifiers for each one of those. So this allows you to have a bunch of different weapons using different, using the similar style of ranges, but a different range letter, so you can have a table that you can just sort of delineate all this what you're shooting at. Next would be the mode, is either single shot, semi-automatic, might have 4 shots, it might have 4/6, which would be like a short burst and a long burst. Those are all going to affect how things are hit, of course. There's full automatic, which we'll touch on it, but we're not going to get into that until the part 2 of this. Then there's accuracy. Some weapons are just hard to shoot with. Some have an accuracy, like multi-melta has a negative just straight out the gate, just because it's a hard weapon to fire, to use easily by anybody. So it takes a really skilled person to get rid of that negative really making a problem for you. And then there's damage. That's normal for any kind of battle game or a role-playing game. You know, just how much damage does this thing do per one shot? How many shots the weapon has? A pistol. How many shots does it have? Auto pistol might have a clip with 20 in it. And then there's reload is the next thing on there, and that's how long it takes to reload the weapon. So on auto pistol, it takes, they usually clip, there's 20 shots in you. It takes 2 actions to reload that. Now, if it's in brackets or parentheses, that's how many bullets. Say if you had a revolver, that's how many bullets you can do in one action. How many bullets you can put in there in one action. So if a revolver has 6 shots, you can put 3 shots per action back into it. I don't know why they did it both ways in the same chart, but that's what they did. And then there's weight. How much does it weigh? Not a big deal with your pistols and stuff, but you get to assault cannon, it's pretty heavy, and your strength, if you're not strong enough to hold it, you get a lot more modifiers if you can even pick the thing up. So we'll deal with that. That's all the basic things you need to worry about. We'll continue. So we talked about the line of sight, the arc of vision of where you're going to be able to see, and then now it gets down to hitting the target and what things you need to do through the summary to get things done. And it just comes down to line of sight, and then hit a target. You're going to make a to hit roll based on your firer's ballistic skill, or BS, after modifications to hit. Unmodified rolls of 0 to 5 always hit, and a 96er to 100 is always a miss. So you're going to check your weapon's accuracy to see what the weapon's profile, what the accuracy is to hit the target. And then you're going to check the range and cross-reference that with your range code to figure out that modifier. And then there's movement. How many yards did your character walk or snuck or ran? And that's going to incur penalties on you to hit your target because you were running. And in the other side of that, if your target was running or trying to shimmy around to try not to get shot, that's going to make it hard for you to hit as well, because they're just trying not to be hit. They don't get some kind of modifier. It just makes it harder for you to hit. I mean, you get a modifier. They don't get to roll against your shot. All right, so that's weapon range. Range, weapons, aiming. Oh, you can take an action or 2 to aim. Your character can decide to aim the target. You can take an action. It's going to give you a plus 20 on your hit roll because you've taken a moment to stop and before you pull the trigger. You can also, that's cumulative, so you can spend 2 actions and then make that higher. You can make it up to 40. You can make it an easy shot because you sat there for 3 rounds aiming. I mean, because if you're sitting in your Overwatch, you could be sitting there for a while. You could be watching a 4-yard area across an alleyway to see if anybody comes through, and you can snapshot them. You can be resting your weapon. You get a plus 10. If the target size is less than human size, like the Cyber Eagle had in my last game, it's a negative 30 to hit. It's just harder to hit it. It's smaller. If it's bigger, it's a plus 30. If it's 50% bigger than a human, it's plus 30. Semi-automatic, every shot after the first is a minus 10%. So if you shoot 3 shots, the first shot is your weapon skill plus, minus modifiers. The second shot's going to be minus 10 on that. And then the third shot's going to be minus 20. If you have 6 in your semi-automatic, a longer burst, it's going to be all the way down to negative 60. It's just going to be harder and harder to hit the target as you're boom, 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 shooting those shots. If you're firing offhand, that's a negative 20% chance because you're just not used. Some people you could have the skill for ambidextrous and not have a minus for both hands. I have the squat that I have modeled for the game. I can make him ambidextrous. I make him slower to walk because he's got shorter legs, but I gave him the ability to fire both hands, both weapons, without any modifiers. If you're firing with both hands with both weapons, you have a negative 20 normally, but if not, if you have this some special skills to offset that. If it's higher than your strength, again, we talked about that. If it's higher than your strength, your character is going to get a negative 1 for each point of weight over your weight or your ability to carry your strength. So if a character has a weapon that is 10 points over their strength, weighs 10 more pounds over their ability to carry it, it's going to be minus 10 on the shot. So it's just harder to hit. It's not impossible. You can place a shot. If you have a shot that's equal or less than 1/10 of the number required for you to hit, you may add or deduct up 20% of the hit location roll, which we'll get into probably on the second part of this. I'll do the fully automatic that, and then the hit location chart. So you can modify that if you hit 1/10 of the target. So if you had a 70% chance to hit and you rolled a 7 or under, you're going to get to modify the shot by 20% up or down. Then the other part of it is if you shoot somebody, if they get shot at, you don't hit them, they still have to take a pinning test. If you didn't hit them, they get a plus 20 on their nerve when they take that pinning test. But if you hit them, it's just a straight nerve test. And they'll have to dive or find cover, go prone, find cover to the nearest 6 inches away. Some characters can ignore this because they just don't care about the nerve test. They don't care about being shot at. They're just going to keep coming. All right, so we're going to get into just sort of rounding this out. This is sort of the bit. So we check the weapons accuracy, the hit modifier summary chart. This is a chart that I sort of took from that bigger sheet and just made it easier to digest. Whether the fire moved modifiers are listed there, whether the target evaded, if the weapon is rested, per shot on a semi-ammo, large, small targets, and any other targets. There could be modifiers just because the GM decided there's a target modifier. So that is all that is on that. The shooting summary, we talked about that. The range modifiers, I'm just making sure I didn't get rid of skip anything. So there you go. If you picked up the book, yet the PDFs that I sort of pointed out where you can find those, that's basically everything in a nutshell for the first part of this shooting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next part, hopefully after this weekend. Thank you.